p.m. West African time in Lagos, Nigeria. You're right on time for the opening episode of Jasiri this week. Welcome to the place for bold, insightful, and fearless conversations. The place where we dive deep into the issues that shape our society and impact our lives. Now today, we're tackling a topic that's more relevant than ever, Nigeria's Cybercrime Act. As our world becomes increasingly digital, the lines between security and personal freedom continue to blur. Nigeria's Cybercrime Act was introduced to protect citizens and safeguard the nation's cyberspace, but it has also sparked intense debate. Is it truly safeguarding us from cyber threats, or is it being used to silence dissent and limit digital rights? But we'll get started with some updates on stories before we get into that conversation. Welcome again. This is Jasiri.
That's right, and if you've been following the show, you know we've discussed these topics before, but trust us to deliver updates just like we promised. So let's get into it. First up, the UNIZIK altercation that shook social media last week. Now remember that viral video of a student attacking a lecturer over a TikTok recording? Well, the NAFDAC University, UNIZIK, has now expelled the student. I remember Kat hoping it wouldn't get swept under the carpet. Now, the school's disciplinary committee released a statement announcing the expulsion of the student Gudi Mbakwe Chiamaka Precious, saying that they have zero tolerance for such behavior. I mean, actions have consequences, right?
Absolutely. And speaking of consequences, remember the controversy surrounding Miss Universe Nigeria, Chidinma Adesina? Well, her mother, Annabella Rungo, is now in serious trouble with South African authorities. The Department of Home Affairs stated that Rungo was arrested in Cape Town on the 15th of February this year after her South African documentation was revoked due to allegations of fraudulent acquisition. So this development follows a previous controversy in August last year when Adesina withdrew from the Miss South Africa competition amid questions about her citizenship and her mother's alleged identity theft. It's crazy how this story just keeps unfolding. But hey, we move to another update where NAFDAC is not playing at all. So over the weekend, they carried out major crackdowns on fake and expired drugs.
Now, when we say major, we mean major. We're hearing it's about 140 tons of illegal drugs were evacuated from Aba. That's a whole warehouse of trouble that is now off the streets. And not just that, NAFDAC also sealed the Idumota open drug markets in Lagos. This is part of their nationwide push to sanitize the drug supply chain. I must say, it's good to see serious action being taken on issues related to our health, because at the end of the day, this affects everyday Nigerians who just want safe, genuine medication. So there you have it, our top updates from the weekend. These stories keep evolving, and you know we'll be right here to break it all down for you.
But wait a damn minute. Well, ladies, we forgot one update. Now, on Friday, we discussed the petition from Tuface Idibia's family to the DSS to help find their son since he left home on February 10. His mother also released a video begging his new fiancé to free him, accusing her of putting beads on him. Now, it's interesting that the family is looking for him when all of Nigeria seems to know exactly where he is. Shortly after the petition and the video came out, Tuface was spotted again in public shopping at a mall with his fiancée, Natasha Osawuru, as if to say, I'm right here, Mom, don't worry. Now, the man keeps showing up everywhere with his boo, and the family dare call on DSS to go and look for a 50-year-old man who knows exactly what he's doing. Is the audacity for me. But let's not get into that. And it's just yet. Hopefully, we're done with this right now.
You know, it's interesting. I don't know. A lot has happened. It seems like, wow.
72 hours. I'm like, are these people not rest?
Thank you for reminding us this last one, because I'm just tripped. Funny enough, it's as if, it may be an unpopular opinion, but I just see he's free Tuface. Like, he's free. It's like, maybe for the first time, he's doing something he really wants to do. Like, no, you know how you just don't feel accountable to anybody, you are just doing you in that moment. The man is busy walking through a mall, shopping. It's just like, so it can also be like walking through a mall in Brent Cross.
So I'm wondering, is it that he's not picking his family's phone calls? He's not picking his mama's phone call? He has a brother or brothers or siblings, but we knew one very popular brother that was also singing as well. Is it that he's not picking their phone calls?
It's possible.
Well, because after videos, and then you go and do, even before the petition, we already see videos. So now you do petition, now the man is saying that he's shopping.
I think they know that he wasn't missing. They was just probably trying to call his attention. Yes, because We are all.
He looks happy.
I know, he's buying wigs for his fiancée.
There's nothing what he doesn't look. The man is in his element.
Can they remove that one she's wearing, by the way, and just put
Jesus.
Stop it. Behave. Ask Michelle on a Monday morning.
Horrible.
So that's not the only story.
No, that's not the only.
Chidinma Adesina is back in the news again, and we saw I saw some of the comments. I don't know if we have them from South Africans who were very unfortunate. They were happy that the mother had been arrested, and apparently the situation is not one that is far from their minds as it may be. Remember that she came second. She was first runner-up at the Miss Universe pageant, doing exceptionally well. The story is a bit convoluted. She wanted to, of course, she said she was born and raised in South Africa. She wanted to compete on behalf of South Africa. South Africans said no, that she's not one of them. She basically stepped down from the Miss Universe South Africa pageant because of all the backlash, threats to her life and her family, apparently. And then Nigeria said, come, broke some protocols to bring her here. She came to be part of it. She won here, not unexpectedly, and then became first runner-up at the Miss Universe pageant in Mexico. But it doesn't seem like it's over because now her mother has been detained.
It's interesting for me because I saw some of the comments and Nigerians in the comment section say, girl, just come home.
So talking about the comment sections, I think we have some reactions. So let's take the reactions if we've got them.
Wow, Chidinma is one idiotic Nigerian criminal. What was she hoping, posting that she has been having a great time in CPT, spicy to South Africans? Didn't she think intelligence would follow from that? Now her mom has been detained in CPT. Well done, Home Affairs. So apparently she was spotted, I think, in the mall or somewhere in Cape Town, and then after that her mom was arrested. Chidinma Adesina's mother, Annabella Rungo, has been arrested in Cape Town for defying her ban on entering South Africa. Yet again, foreigners disrespect our immigration laws. We await the arrest of her daughter, who is also here illegally. Thank the hard-working minister. So I remember in the course of the pageant, the Miss Universe, let's take this one before I talk. Patriots, we must thank Chidinma Adesina for arrogance. She's the reason why her mother, Annabella Rungo, is arrested. She came to the Republic of South Africa with no intentions to resolve this matter and still refused to comply with Home Affairs' SA investigation. Our social media campaigns really applied pressure this time round. Lastly, the lady who saw Chidinma Adesina at Waterfront Cape Town Life Grand Cafe and took that video, she is the real hero. To all ordinary South Africans who came forward to enable me expose this family of fraudsters and drug dealers, you are highly appreciated. So again, it renews the whole South Africa-Nigeria thing. But I do remember that in the course of her going for the Miss Universe in Mexico, we were getting updates from the Home Affairs in South Africa talking about how, again, they were both wanted for questioning because of the investigation. And then I think at one point they said that they did find that the mother's documents were fake. And I'm just, why are you back? Why did you go back to South Africa?
Exactly. And I remember
really
saying,
curious.
I remember asking, because I remember then one of the major things that South Africans were saying is they've been invited for questioning and they have refused to show up. I'm like, you guys are giving them reason to keep talking. Why not just show up if you know that what you're doing? And then again, if you've left there, like Tolu said, why did you go back there? Because the hate is real.
No,
like
the hate is real. It's palpable. You can sense it, you can feel it, you can smell it, you can see the color of that hate. Yeah. Mine is if you were in South Africa and you went to a mall, I don't want to assume you were hiding.
Obviously, Waterfront is a beautiful mall was there last year.
If you're not hiding, that means that you feel say you don't stand well. So if you feel you've stood well and you're not answering to the calls from Home Affairs to regularize or to clarify the things you need to clarify, I don't understand the narrative they were going with, that somebody maybe they spoke to that made them feel as if, oh, don't worry, you can still be here. And no, sort it out first. I think, listen, we must, if we want to castigate, I'm not a fan of the South African-Nigerian banter and the hate, the back and forth, but you cannot blame them. These are laws that exist in their country. Guy, if you're in Rome, behave like the Romans. If you want to be there, adhere to the laws, so that on that level, there's nothing. You become untouchable. But as it is now, your mom has been arrested. Probably not you, but your mom has been arrested, and that taints all of you guys. It does.
And so at the end of the day, so the mother was detained on Saturday after being found at a property in Cape Town, despite her South African documents being confiscated last year due to allegations of identity fraud. that statement, there was a statement from the Home Affairs on Saturday. And if you guys remember, initially when this story broke last year, I think the Home Affairs Minister was out of the country. And it became such a big story. He said he was cutting short his trip and he was coming back home to personally oversee the investigation. And so you know how much this story has particularly avalanche, has snowballed into something much bigger than it is right now. It seems that an ENCA report from a South African television station said that she used her Mozambican passport to bypass her undesirable status and would be handed over to the South African Police Services, the country's national police force. There's just questions.
Okay,
I have
so
a lot of questions.
She will be
She's likely most likely.
Now, I don't understand how the laws work with a Mozambican passport, whether you still need a visa to enter SA. I really don't know. But if there's another angle to it, if she can travel with a Mozambican passport to South Africa without a visa, because in some countries you do, you can seamlessly move between countries. If that is the case, then she probably wouldn't. Like I said, there are layers to this. You can travel free because you don't need a visa. Or if you have a visa, maybe you have 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and you've exceeded that. So
it's a lot, because they said that, so even regardless of that, she was declared ineligible to continue residing in South Africa. So even if you have a Mozambican passport, as long as you're not a native of the country, and the country has said we don't want you, by rights, by law, you should not be there. Chidima was out and about at a mall, and it was a 23-year-old law student who actually caught, there she is. She was out and about. So somehow I'm wondering, what belief did they have that everything had been sorted? Or are their lawyers in touch with Home Affairs and they've been given the idea that, just maintain status quo? That just raises a lot of questions. So now if her mother has been arrested, is she in danger of also being arrested or detained as well? So I think this is starting to become a bit more diplomatically involved, but the mother is not a Nigerian. It's the father that's a Nigerian. The mother is said to be Mozambican, and Chidima is Nigerian by value of her father being Nigerian.
Listen, I respect also the fact that maybe you've lived there, you were born there, you've lived there, so it's home for you. So you want to do everything possible to fight for it.
Knowing everything that is at stake, you shouldn't just...
No, mine is that, you want to fight for it, but can you fight properly? And while that process is ongoing, can you respect the restrictions that come with it? Don't be moving around feeling like you're untouchable, probably because you are now known, you were involved in beauty pageants, but do things appropriately as within the ambits of the laws of the country.
So I want to get your last comment before we go on a break now. They've expelled the UNIZIK students.
I'm happy for that, because like I said, on this table I said, usually it's not one person. She can't be the only one that has been doing that. So, and then based on, like Laura will talk about spinning PR, because this has now come to light and UNIZIK is in the eyes of everybody, you have to use someone as a scapegoat. Now, moving forward, I want to hope and pray that the students of that school, content creators and all TikTokers, can now know that, listen, there's time for everything.
Yeah.
So that's for me, that's it.
A different angle actually came out of the story. Gave me mixed feelings, but...
No, I don't believe the angle. And then
No, it was a video. It was.
I saw the video. I still don't. It doesn't really. What does the video show?
Because that can be basis for a sexual assault.
How?
The way he held.
It depends on when he held her. If he held her after she started holding him, where is the sexual assault blessings?
Okay.
See, that's not
so that's why I don't want to talk about it. Final year, and you're looking at
because there's a video,
okay, but
a different angle that shows him holding her here. That's not enough to
that
clarify.
Angle coming out. I don't know about that, but yeah, okay.
I don't know whether she'll be intellectually wired to even look at
so according to there was a comment the guy was, and it sounded like he knows a lot about what he's saying, that they're actually looking into a sexual assault case herself and her family, but there you go. Again, it's alleged.
You never know, and it may give them like, see, that's a beautiful thing in this country. Allegedly.
If you want to use this situation as a sexual assault case, you are undermining the fight that so many victims and women have had when it comes to sexual assault cases. I'm so sorry. It doesn't. Well,
if you want to use that as a cover,
let's move on.
Okay, so let's go on a break. It's time for a break. Up next, like Tolu said when she welcomed all of us to just say Cyber Talk, Nigeria Cybercrime Act. Protection or suppression? Gbenga Sesan is the Executive Director of Paradigm Initiative and one of Africa's leading voices. Today he joins us on the table as we explore the delicate balance between cybersecurity, civil liberties, and whether the current law strikes that balance or leans too heavily on control. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Today, we're putting the spotlight on a law that affects every Nigerian who uses the internet, and that's Nigeria's Cybercrime Act. When it was introduced, the Cybercrime Act aimed to tackle online fraud, identity theft, and other digital threats. But over the years, it's faced growing criticism and concern, with some arguing that while it's meant to protect us, it's also being used to stifle free speech, target journalists, and silence dissenting voices. Is the Cybercrime Act truly safeguarding our digital space, or has it become a tool for censorship? How do we strike a balance between security and freedom of expression in an age where so much of our lives are online? So let's dive into all of this today, unpacking the complexities and hearing from someone who is on the front lines of digital rights in Nigeria. Our guest is Gbenga Sesan. He's the Executive Director of Paradigm Initiative. Gbenga, welcome back to Jasiri.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back. It's great to have you back to discuss this. Gbenga, you were here with us earlier, and we discussed the possibility of a data breach with Nigeria's NIN. Your face tells it all. Is there any update that you can share with us? Because we see that you've taken almost everybody to court at this point.
Well, not everybody, just the right people. I need to answer questions.
I love it, just the right people.
Just the right people. Nigerians are safe. They are the ones we're working to protect. The primary institution is the NIMSI, the Management Commission for Our Identity. And yes, initially when we went to court, we got a new date later this month, and we have read from their lawyers, so we now know what sort of arguments they want to make, and it's very much welcome, because initially it was all silence, as if they were ignoring it, but now they want to make a case, and it's not a case we did not expect. I always knew from the very beginning that NIMSI would want to say, oh, you are stubborn, we're going to punish you, which is what many institutions try to do when they are called to question. So we were ready for this. Paradigm Initiative is an organization registered in Nigeria to work in advocacy. And so when we took action to find out what exactly was the breach in Nigeria, I made sure that we were compliant with data protection laws, no other person on the team, and I took the liberty of our work and our mission to prove that the information was available for free at the 100 naira. And that is what we've gone to argue in court. Of course, I'm sure NIMSI is going to say, oh, how did he get that information? Maybe maybe it's even the one who should be thrown into jail for it and things like that. But I'm not surprised. This advocacy with NIMSI did not start now. It did not start last year. It started from the very beginning of NIMSI. And we've had, like I mentioned the last time, we had times when they involved the Secret Service, and we answered all the questions clearly. And of course, what we want is very simple. Was there a breach? Yes. Has the breach been found, the source of the breach been found? We have our suspicions and we submitted. It is for them to now answer the court. They've said go to court, present the cases. We have presented that. Now they are saying, oh, there's no way to get this information except you put someone's mobile number and someone's NIN. And maybe the people gave you their mobile number and their NIN. Of course, that's silly to say the least. But it's okay. It's a court process. We'll allow you to go through and we'll prove what needs to be proved. And at the end of the day, I hope that Nigeria wins. Because at the end of the day, it is not about an individual. It is not even about any single institution. It's about the data of Nigerians. It is a shame that the data of Nigerians leaked. And the best that any institution can do is to try to either hide its head in the sand like an ostrich, or to try to blame one individual whose work predates, and we outdate them.
I like that. Predate and outdate them.
So recently on this table, we talked about we explored the issue of online gender-based violence, and we tried to take that apart, and we discovered there's a lot of work to be done. So today, we're delving deeper into the effectiveness of Nigeria's Cybercrime Act as amended. Last year, the amendment of the Cybercrime Act aimed to address ambiguities in the original Act of 2015. And let me just go through the key changes. It included enhanced reporting protocols, that's organizations now requiring to report cyber incidents within 72 hours. That's a reduction from previous 7-day window. There's the expansion of offenses. The Act now covers a broader range of cyber crimes, including electronic fraud and unauthorized data interception. Cybersecurity levy, a 0.5% levy on specified electronic transactions has been introduced to fund cybersecurity initiatives. So now, in the world we're in and where we're heading to and how fast AI and tech are moving, because that's the new sea, that way there, with the AI and tech as crazy as they're moving with speed, a Cybercrime Act to protect citizens and businesses is a good thing. But before this act, what protections were in play and what were the landscapes like before all of these new introductions?
It was the wild West, East, North, and South, and Central all combined. Because, cybercrime was, and to be fair, everyone was concerned, including the cyber criminals themselves. And I can say this because in those days you had young people in cyber cafes who were being arrested, and the police then turned it into a racket. By the way, maybe the police want to sue me for this and I'll win the case. They would go into the cyber cafe, arrest all the young people, and you will bail yourself with 100,000 naira. So even the people committing the crimes themselves were like, oh, wait a second, what's going on here? So all we need to do is make more than 100,000 naira per person and then be able to pay. So it was a Wild West, unfortunately. But thankfully, and I think way back since 2004, and I mentioned this the last time, that we need to give credit where credit is due. Obasanjo was at a global summit and he heard people talking about Nigeria and crime and cybercrime. And in his usual fashion, came back to Nigeria and said, okay, do something. Of course, anybody who was present at the time would do that. And then the Nigerian Cybercrime Working Group was set up. Of course, before then, there were some initiatives, but the Cybercrime Working Group was really helpful because it brought together all stakeholders to answer the questions, which eventually, after 11 years, led to the approval of the 2015 law, which, interesting enough, I mean, it looks like 11 years is the time limit for discussing serious things in Nigeria, because it took about the FOI law took about 11 years also. But what we got eventually in 2015 was unfortunately not the best, but that's fine. No law is perfect. It was a starting point. But the challenge is that there were now two sections that were very notorious: Section 24 and also, 37 and 48. But the most notorious was Section 24 because it was really ambiguous. It was supposed to be on cyber stalking, but then it became the thing that was used to attack every journalist, every activist, or any dissenting voice. You will write one article and then you'll be picked up for cyber stalking. Meanwhile, stalking is a repeated offense, but cyber stalking is supposed to be something repeated, but then you do one thing. In fact, it got to an extent that people were being picked up for things that were being preempted.
Okay, wait, because this cyber stalking, we have it on the screen if you can see. Criminalization of cyber stalking, Section 24, makes it illegal to send messages via a computer system that are deemed false, to cause annoyance, inconvenience, or insult, grossly offensive, indecent, obscene, or menacing, with intent to bully, threaten, or harass. So I think the last two lines we get, but when you look at the other parts, when it involves annoyance, where it involves something... they've taken it away from the screen. When it involves other things, you think, how do you solve, how do you determine, how do you define annoyance? How do you define inconvenience?
Yes. So the good news is that some of these words have been taken out in the 2024 amendment. Let me read there. This is one of the things about laws and vagueness, not just in Nigeria, anywhere in the world. In all of the countries we work on the continent, we see this vagueness, and the vagueness is what allows the powerful to oppress the less powerful.
So that means the vagueness is intentional?
At times it is intentional. At times it is just, incompetence. But let's just say the former section talked about, it says any person who knowingly or intentionally sends a message or other matter by means of computer systems or networks that is grossly offensive, pornographic, indecent, obscene, menacing, and continues knows to be false for the purpose of causing annoyance, inconvenience, danger, obstruction, insult, injury. In a country where insults could be someone telling you that someone could say your father. Your father could be a friend to a friend, your father. When friends see each other and things like that. But unfortunately, this was being misused. Thankfully, 24(1) has now, the 1A has now been reduced to just one word. So all these annoyance, inconvenience, and all that have been taken out, and the last thing that is left is pornographic.
Okay.
But this is what is funny. There are still a lot of cases being pursued by the police today that are based on the 2015 law.
Yeah.
And this is where I worry, that if truly what you're pursuing is cybercrime, then you should be using the law that addresses cybercrime, which is the 2024 law, which doesn't talk about insult, doesn't talk about annoyance. Of course, it talks about what you know to be false and things like that. But in many of the cases that the police is pursuing, they are based on former 2015 law. Because the 2024 law, of course, still has provision for what you transmit and is, bullying, threatening, harassing, and things like that. But things like insult and those things that could be annoyance.
Yes.
For God's sake.
So does that are you telling me the police is operating in illegality or a lack of knowledge, ignorance, which is not a defense before the law, which also would make me want to wonder what the courts that they appear in front of say. If you're bringing somebody to court in front of me and I'm seeing a charge sheet and it involves legislation that has been amended, why are we still there?
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Sure. Can you hold that thought, because we want to go on a short break now, but when we come back, I would like you to remember the question so you can answer. Stay with us.
You're still watching Jasiri here on News Central. The topic of the day is Nigeria's Cybercrime Act. Protection or suppression? Is it for us or not for us? Our guest is Gbenga Sesan, the Executive Director of Paradigm Initiative, an advocate for digital rights as well as an expert in that space. Gbenga, right before the break, I was asking you about whether or not even the police, even the courts, that these charges based on the 2015 law are being brought to are not up to speed. If a law has been amended, you cannot be operating and charging me based on the previous law. Where are we when it comes to the police and the judicial system, and also them being carried along and up to date as well?
I mean, there's a process of gazetting laws, putting them in relevant libraries, getting them into the court system, and of course, I want to believe the Nigerian police is subscribed to the printing press of the government of Nigeria. I believe so, which means that they get every copy of what is printed. But there is one challenge before I come to the main one. The challenge is there were cases that were being executed based on the old law. Now, it means that the people who are defending themselves in those cases have an opportunity to ask a question. Are you charging me on because you can't charge anyone on a law that doesn't exist or a law that has been repealed. But now it is on the police and the court system to be updated. Many times, I mean, lawyers will come to court and then say, this is the new version and things like that. It is expected that the judge knows. I hate to admit the fact that we've seen scenarios where the police and even within court systems are not aware of updates to laws. I mean, there's so many laws, there's so many things to follow, but it is not an excuse. It means that when a case is being mentioned, the expectation is that you're consulting the law. And if you're consulting the law in 2025, for God's sake, you shouldn't be consulting the law on a piece of paper. You should be consulting the law, even if it's a piece of paper, it should be printed from a live source that will then show you that there's an amendment and there is an update. Because you can't argue a case for a law that does not exist. A lot needs to be done. And I think this is where we all need to be involved. One is citizens. Citizens need to become a bit more aware. It's sad to me, for me to be saying that citizens have to read all the laws and things like that. But to protect yourself in a country like this, you need to be aware of the law.
Each of us is becoming a mini government unto ourselves. During the break, we looked at it. Are you talking to people who don't care? Nigerians are just, there's a lot for them to keep up with.
Absolutely.
You're keeping up with healthcare, you're keeping up with education.
Somebody that has eaten that can keep up with the law, to be honest. A lot of them, it doesn't.
Which is where civil society organizations like Paradigm Initiative come in. We've taken it upon ourselves to train the police. We work with the police, the training units of the police, and we have a pretty interesting relationship where recently all of the trainers in the police force from the training colleges were sent, and we had a conversation about digital rights, about the relevance of cybercrime laws and why you must not use it to oppress, and we're very impressed. Now, that message needs to go from the trainers
it should infiltrate
everyone else.
Especially the ones who like to tell you, bring your phone. Especially those ones.
And we also have the opportunity of working with the Judicial Institute, National Judicial Institute, to train judges. Well, I will not say train judges, my lord. To have conversations with judges where we also have, this updates on issues. And at times, I think that while this is working, I think it's at times too slow.
Yes.
And the reason why it's too slow is because it will take a while, which is why I keep going back to the issue to say that if at any point in time you are a lawyer who is defending someone who has been charged based on the Cybercrime Act, please very quickly check to be sure that it is not based on the old version of the law. Because if many lawyers challenge this in court, even if the judge is not aware, and you make him aware, people say that, you will make the judge aware. And that's how the system works. It is a system that grinds slowly. And it's good it's slow, because if it's fast, at times, you could throw the right person into jail.
Sure. Gbenga, let me pick up from here, because one of the major criticisms of this act, or this law as it is regarding it's being used to stifle free speech and target journalists. Since the law's implementation and further amendments, what have you seen? We were talking off air about Omoyele Showore's case, as it may be, but we've seen other situations where all of a sudden you hear cybercrime, cyber stalking, cyberbullying, intimidation online, all those things. In terms of how the law has really been enforced, especially the people who have found themselves being charged under the law, what have you seen?
We've not seen any difference, to be honest, and that points to something. Either the law was amended to make it better or not, we've not seen a difference. The same attitude of using a law to punish the innocent many times is still continuing, and that tells you something. It tells you the problem is not the law. The law has now become an excuse in the hands of somebody who has an agenda. The agenda is punish that boy who is very critical of this government. Punish that girl who is publishing an article against, who is she? You know what government officials say when you challenge them? Do you know who I am? Well, if you don't know who you are, we're sorry.
I'm not the one to tell you.
I'm not the one to tell you who you are. But the reality is that the law has now become an excuse in their hands. So either you like it or not, even if the law is amended, they will not change their attitude. It now comes back to us to challenge and say, listen, this was your excuse before, insult. Now, insult has been removed, so null and void the case you are bringing against me. If they lose a few cases on that, of course they'll change tactics, they'll maybe go for terrorism law, and go for penal code and all of that, but we need, as citizens, unfortunately, Chimamanda said many years ago, every one of us needs to be a feminist. Right now, I'm going to borrow that phrase, and every Nigerian needs to be an activist. Because if you're not careful, you'll become the victim of the system. So you need to find out, how do I protect myself? What do I need to know? And when you are involved in a case and you get a lawyer, please tell your lawyer. Insult is former one. Of course, I'm sure the lawyer already knows that. So we haven't seen any change. Journalists are still under threat of cybercrime and cyber stalking. Even citizens, I mean, we've had cases of someone, remember the case of the lady who asked a simple question on Facebook, why is my governor buying coffins and not investing in education? And she was charged with cyber stalking. I'm like, this is insane.
Oh yeah, and there's so many like that.
And there's so many.
Had a question.
Yeah, so I mean, I know that Nigeria is not alone in wanting to ensure protection for the digital world and to make the digital space a safer space, right? But how does Nigeria's Cybercrime Act compare with the laws of other countries, and what other measures do they adopt that we need to learn from? That's if the people in charge will allow us to learn from them.
So there is a law, there is a system that manages the law, and there is the process. In terms of law, Nigeria is A1. We've got some of the best policies, some of the best written laws, the problem is not with the laws. The problem is with two things, the system and, unfortunately, now, with the system, the real challenge now is that you're not dealing with institutions in many cases, you're dealing with individuals. Someone writes an article about the EFCC chairman, and the EFCC as an institution then rises to defend the one big man. That's weird. That's abuse, literally. Someone writes an article about a pastor, about a bank MD, and the entire institution, the entire organization brings its force against that. And that's where the challenge is. Now, apart from the system, there's also the fact that we unfortunately have, what do I call it? If you're the defendant, if you're the one trying to defend yourself, unfortunately you are declared guilty until you are proved innocent. In the sense that, first of all, don't forget, first of all, you get picked up, If you are not lucky, they whisk you to Ekiti State or somewhere else. And in that case, first of all, you have not had the right to defend yourself. So it's not, the problem is not with the laws, the problem is with the system and with the institutions implementing it. If an institution has an agenda, to be honest, everybody is excited we now have a cybercrime law. Because we want an end to cybercrime. It has cost Nigeria, not in terms of reputation alone. Your money, my money in banks are being stolen. Now banks have to declare within 72 hours, and to be fair, many times they don't declare because they don't want it to be known. They don't want too much of their reputation to be. We don't want a distrust in the banking system. So we all want cybercrime gone. But the real challenge we have is that the implementation leans towards a wrong agenda.
Okay, now that you're talking about Cybercrime Act, so I'm asking now, the Cybercrime Act and the Data Protection Act in Nigeria, do they align, or we need a stronger integration? Integration. Are we okay this morning? Have you had your coffee?
They are aligned, which is actually quite interesting, that the 2024 version of the cybercrime law actually amended a few areas of the 2015 version, referencing the 2023 Data Protection Act. So like I said, the laws are not almost always the problem. In fact, the same law you have in Nigeria, if you took that law into a country that has a system that protects the innocent, even when you say someone has insulted you, the burden of proof will be on you to prove that this insult is recommended for punishment by law. But in the case of Nigeria, once you are charged, you are being told to apologize, to go and prostrate in Ado, to go and apologize to a big man somewhere. It is not so, unfortunately, in Nigeria, it is not about the law. It is that the law is another tool in the hand of the powerful. And that is where the problem is.
Yes, it's not the law.
And I think one of the reasons Gbenga is quite upset on this is that they were consulted. You were consulted in the formation or in the process of bringing about this law. And then you now see an end product that's like, wait a minute, where did this come from? When you look at all of that, because of the work you've done in digital rights, even across the continent, we talked about internet shutdown, governments use that across the continent. We have, sometimes they use the excuse of exams, national exams, sometimes they use the excuse of security as well, and then they shut down the internet. We're in a space and time where, even as much as we might claim democracy, we're not seeing a lot of democratic behavior in some of our governments. But when we come back, we'll pick up this in terms of the balance that is needed between cybersecurity and the digital freedoms that we enjoy now. Stick around, we'll have much more after this.
Is Nigeria's Cybercrime Act protecting citizens, or is it suppressing free speech? This is a question at the heart of today's conversation on Jestery. Now, with growing concerns about how the law is being applied, many are questioning its impact on freedom of expression and privacy. We're in the home stretch of the conversation with Paradigm Initiative's Gbenga Sesan. Gbenga, my question is, if it is possible, how can Nigeria balance the need for cybersecurity with the protection of digital rights and freedom?
The intent is what matters. So, is there the intent? First of all, laws are made to protect people.
Laws are made for man, not man for the law.
Laws are made to protect people. But when, right now, what we have, and I say this with all sense of being held liable, the laws that are made in Nigeria, even if those laws are supposed to promote good things, some big men, and they are almost always men, always find a way.
Why did you just brush past that?
Of inserting, because I know you're women and you will jump on that. Always inserting. Look at, for example, hate speech law, fake news law, 3 pages of law, 2 paragraphs to address the problem, 1 whole page to say you will punish people who insult you as an individual. That doesn't make any sense. So the real problem is that we're not making laws to protect citizens. We're not setting up systems to protect citizens. You will hear people say things that, I mean, the DG of the SSS said, recently that, it is impossible for the DSS, the police, the army to be everywhere at the same time. And we agree. And then he talked about communities protecting themselves. And the question was, wait a second, did they change the laws? Are we now allowed to carry weapons and things like that? But I guess we will discuss that, and because we all want Nigeria to be safe. But the challenge of this cyber crime versus protection of citizens' rights is that the intent is first of all wrong. The intent is, how do we shut up these noisemakers? And the way to balance this is on 3 institutions. The judiciary, number 1. Judges need to do what judges should do. What judges do is hear the case and bring to bear the facts of the law, and from their own experience and knowledge, make sure that justice is served. If justice is served in most cases, it will deter the abusers of the law. I would love, and I'm not telling our lordships what to do, but it will be interesting to see punishment for individuals and institutions who bring cybercrime cases that are not cybercrime cases, who waste the time of the court and waste Nigeria's resources. We don't have money. Sometimes we're wasting money. So let them be reprimanded so that we can see a fewer cases of abuse. The second group of people that need to do this are the police. And I say this all the time, either when we're together in training or we're in conversations. The police need to stop being the tool of politicians.
Can they stop being that?
It's in their own interest. I gave examples to them and I said, look at, it's not far from here, East Africa in Kenya, where 2 police officers were having a conversation, and one was basically saying, oh, they've killed one of these protesters. And who was the protester? The protester was the brother of the other police guy. Your cousins, your in-laws. And I know there are policemen and women who are listening to this and are agreeing, but because they're in uniform, they can't say this to their bosses. But within the system, there are senior people who can begin to ask those questions. Why are we tools of politicians? They use you, they dump you, and God forbid that you pay the ultimate price. They kick your family out of the barracks.
And what happens to them then?
What happens?
So it is not even in your interest to be used as a tool. Judges, police, and my own constituency, civil society. We must, at the risk of, they will bring frivolous charges against you. They will call you names. They will threaten you and tell you to run away. Listen, we'll be here after many of those are threatened are all gone. Because the intent of your work is innocent, is to protect the innocent. And because of that, the duty of the court system, the duty of security agencies, not just the police, others, will at some point align with the work that you do. And I know that people will say, oh, this guy is too optimistic, he's too much of an optimist. But in reality, we've started seeing cases where when you argue, it comes to a point where it is clear to everyone, including the visually impaired and those that can see clearly, that, okay, what we see, what we hear, what we perceive is truth. So, case dismissed. And that is where we need to get to.
So I found something interesting. So we've had 2 installations now, 2015 when the law was first done, and then the amendment in 2024, which you said took out some of the ambiguities, but not all of them. So that means, is it that government is listening? Because my question is around the political will or the momentum towards, again, amending the Cybercrime Act. Right now, I don't think, is there anything about AI in the Cybercrime Act? Deep fakes? It doesn't have to be specific, but any kind of section, that targets these things. Because you have a Cybercrime Act for today, but man, the way technology is moving, you need a Cybercrime Act for tomorrow as well. So is there any political will, momentum towards constant amendment of this act as may be needed?
Well, we challenged the old version of this law, 2015. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court, challenging sections 24 and 37. We didn't get a date. I think because there's a new version of the law, that will have impact on the case. But what we've seen is that enlightened self-interest is actually a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is.
So, and I will say this publicly, one of the reasons why the cybercrime law was amended was to fund the process.
The cybersecurity levy.
The cybersecurity levy. So the cybersecurity levy, which was the interest of the security apparatus, and the change of Section 24, which was the interest of citizens, met, and it became enlightened self-interest in this new law. I think we need more of that. We need more, because it's not going to be possible. It is a current precedent. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who said, power will never be served a la carte. You have to fight for it. It means that if citizens, civil society, and everyone who is interested, including the media, if we want changes in the law, then we must first of all follow the process. When you hear that there is a discussion about a particular law, it doesn't matter if it is the interest of somebody you're not aligned with. Jump on that and have conversations also, so that two different things can go through together and be signed at the same time. I think there is political will in some cases. And those cases involve the fact that Nigeria keeps getting this terrible reputation about cybercrime. So it is the interest of the entire judiciary, legislature, and executive for Nigeria to have better cybercrime laws. So it is the reason why, as civil society, we keep going back to the National Assembly to say, listen, now we have the 2024 law, but it's not perfect. It's not perfect law. We will continue to do that, and I think we can't afford to get tired. Like I said, it took 11 years to even get the law in the first place. We've been on the Digital Rights and Freedom Bill since 2016 officially. It's going to be 10 years next year. But maybe when it is 11 years in 2027, we will then say, oh my
There's
God.
something about 11 years.
Maybe it will be signed in 2027, which will be great, by the way, because then maybe, I don't know. We will not go there, so that I will not predict and then have to bite my words. But I think there is political will, but I think at the end of the day, it would have to be, in many cases, enlightened self-interest. What is the interest of the security apparatus? They want a levy. How does that levy get the real work done? And I think one central question we must begin to ask now, and this is also a challenge to us in civil society. We've done some of this, but I think we need to do it more. We need to now do an appraisal of this law versus the intendment behind getting the act, and show to every institution possible that, listen, we now have this law, but it has been abused, and because of that, you are wasting money. You are wasting money on frivolous cases. You are wasting reputation.
Yes.
I mean, look at the embarrassment that we go through each time that local and international, and I hate the word local, by the way, national and international media pick up a case that is just frivolous and annoying.
I don't even think the case measures up to frivolous, because he couldn't even come with the word. But Gbenga, we have to stop the conversation there. And it's a good thing to hear that there has been amendment in 2024. Maybe somehow all the stars will align and we'll continue to see more amendments. And it's a wrap on today's conversation. Now, we've delved into the concerns and criticisms surrounding Nigeria's Cybercrime Act, exploring its impact on free speech, digital rights, and many more. A very big thank you to our guest, Gbenga Sesan, who is the Executive Director of Paradigm Initiative, for shedding light on these crucial issues and sharing his expert insights. This discussion reminds us of the importance of staying informed and engaged in conversations that shape our digital future. Remember, we're back here tomorrow, 10 a.m. West African time. Until then, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.